Well, it finished Galway 2-19 to Roscommon's 2-16 in the Connacht Senior Football Final 2022. Michael Meehan alongside me here, former Galway forward. Michael, I said to you just after the final whistle, or just before it I think, what would this provincial title mean to the county? It's the first one in 4 years, so your kind of reaction just as I suppose as a supporter and somebody who loves Galway football.
Yes, first and foremost, it was a fantastic occasion. The weather made it here. A super game of football from a Galway perspective, very entertaining, very attacking. Huge scoring. So very enjoyable first and foremost. And there's still a large crowd here hanging around behind us. The players are still out, meeting and greeting the fans, which is lovely to see. And just a really important win after the last few years. Couple of losses, to Mayo on back-to-back Connacht finals, and. So yeah, it was an important one to get back on the horse for this team in their third year under the current management. I think they'll take real satisfaction out of that. It's kind of a marker laid down of progress being made now, and let's build from here.
Yeah, we were just down there talking to Pádraig Joyce after the game, all the press pack, and I suppose the sense I got from him was not to be getting too carried away with this result now, looking ahead into the rest of the championship. He's quite happy to get the Connacht title. But as he said, there's going to be, maybe not saying tougher challenges than Roscommon, but there's going to be a lot more hard work needed if they're going to progress from a quarter final. Yeah,
for sure. There's plenty of learnings that can be taken from today. While everything went their way on the scoreboard, but it, taking 2-16 and probably the two goals and the nature of them. They won't be happy with that, so there's learnings to be taken from today, and like Pádraig would be very pragmatic, and he'd be looking to getting back into work this week, because there will be stiffer challenges ahead. There's no doubt about that. Whoever they may meet in a quarter final is going to have it's going to be a big team no matter who they are. It's going to be probably in Croke Park, and Galway won't want this to be the pinnacle of their season, so to make progress, the next game now is the most important thing on their radar. So yeah, they'll enjoy a few tonight, and so they should. But they should be looking forward to getting back down to work and just planning and preparing for the next challenge, because they played with real confidence today. There was a lot of freedom in how they played, I thought, attacking wise. So the confidence should be good, the training should be enjoyable going forward. I'm sure Cian O'Neill will address the issues that they need to address in terms of maybe shutting teams out a little bit more, and just a couple of soft goals. They won't be happy there, but it's a great place to be as a player, looking forward to the next 3 weeks, knowing you're hitting Croke Park and you want to be in the peak of your fitness, the peak of your powers. So if you're not fully tuned in and prepared to work hard over those 3 weeks, you can arrive at an All-Ireland quarter final and just not turn up, and that's the one thing that Pádraig won't want for this Galway team, that if they're to turn up in Croke Park, that they'll turn up and they'll give it their all and see where that takes them.
I know that Paddy Andrews, speaking on the football pod on Off the Ball, did mention that he was kind of questioning Galway's mettle, their grit, their determination, the strength at the back.
Yeah.
That's something we did see today, despite the two late goals going in. Well, there was one in 63 and then one right at the death. But overall, that second half performance at the back, were you impressed by it?
Yeah, I think when you, and I wasn't tracking it during the match there, but I think the turnover count will be quite favourable for Galway, which they'll be very impressed with. There are times where they got 2 and 3 around the Roscommon attacker, close to the D, and swallow them up and turn the ball over, and that's, as well as the turnover, it's a huge morale boost for everyone in the ground as well, and the players alike as well. They feed off that energy. So, I know taking the points that Paddy made, and I think today, they've answered some of them. There still is, 2-16, or if it was not 16, it still is a large score to give away. So there are areas there to work on, but they are building on what they kind of showed us in a big way in Mayo, against Mayo, which was their kind of defensive setup. They built on that again today, and no matter who they play, that's going to be a large part of the game that they're going to have to bring to an All-Ireland quarter final. But the mettle, they show their mettle. They wanted that victory today. I felt that they would. I felt, going 3 in a row and losing 3 in a row to Roscommon in a few short months just would not be acceptable for a player, manager, supporter. And I think that was a large part of the drive that they had in them today to deliver those turnovers, to attack with the pace that they did. And, they put on a good display of football today.
I want to ask about the 2 forward lines, because a lot of talk was the Roscommon forward line coming into the game, but the Galway forward line were so sharp. They were moving, they were getting around the pitch, they were giving the passers options, they were taking Roscommon defenders out of position, they were pulling them around, whereas the Roscommon forward line just seemed a bit static today. Yeah,
outside of the first maybe 10 minutes where it was quite electric, both teams, it was 4 points each around that time, and there was a lot of space that Roscommon were able to exploit, and they looked really, really dangerous. But there was a momentum swing. Enda Smith had a goal chance, went wide, and Shane Walsh went down and showed us some lovely trickery and balance and speed just to create a little bit of space and drill one home, and that turned the game. And from there on in, I think Galway added another 3 points after that. But yeah, the attacking play, I think it was evident today that there was a lot of freedom in how Galway played up front. Like every player, and we would have mentioned this off air, that every player looked like he was on it today, and he looked like he had an extra second of time and was, could have shot or could have set up. And it's not that anyone was being selfish, it was very much a team play, and that really showed. Is that to do with the defensive setup or the Roscommon's defensive play today? Possibly. There was times there where there was far too much space given to players, and that was the challenge that Galway had in front of them, and they dealt with it. But yeah, even in the second half, Damien Comer came to the fore with 3 scores, and he won a couple of frees that Shane Walsh subsequently kicked over. So it was a good spread. I think between the full forward line on paper, was it 6 points, 3 points, and 1-6, or 5 points for Rob Finnerty, 3 for Damo Comer, and 1-6 for Shane. That's a phenomenal return.
Yeah, there could be more goals as well, only for the saves of Lavin in the second half. Roscommon will have it tough in the qualifiers. We saw from the first draw for the qualifiers, there's some really tough teams in there, so it's not going to be easy. Obviously with the Tailteann Cup, putting a different perspective on the All-Ireland Championship. Do you think Anthony Cunningham can rouse his troops again? I suppose it can be hard maybe after a provincial final defeat, but then again, when there's things to fix, when he has something that he can show his players on the video over the next couple of weeks, that can perhaps sharpen their minds.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, they'll be bitterly disappointed, I think, with their performance, and how they maybe let the setup Galway had defensively, kind of stagnate them, because they had brought a real attacking flair to a lot of their games this year, and we didn't see enough of it today. They didn't see enough of it, and I'm sure that's something that they can go back to look to improve upon. And other than that, typically they're quite strong around the middle of the field. They were able to win their fair share of ball by and large, and that gives you a good platform against any team you go out to play. So Anthony Cunningham, he's a very successful manager in both codes, and he knows what it takes, and in terms of getting on and winning games in All-Ireland series. And I think there'll be no kind of softly approach here. He'll be going right back to try and get Roscommon back into a quarter final, albeit not through the front door, but they'll have an opportunity now. It's not going to be a walk in the park, but you know what? Sometimes that's a good game to have, is a big game in a back door. I was here a number of years ago where they took on a Clare team in a back door game, possibly after losing a provincial final, and possibly Clare turned them over on that day, and Clare were credit for were good for that win, but it was maybe a thing that just the challenge just wasn't there. The players didn't get up for it enough, whereas I don't think they're going to have a chance to kind of take anything for granted from here on in. And they'll dust themselves down, but they'll be able to take certain things out of it where they can improve on, and certain things that they did well as well. And I'd say we haven't seen the last of them yet. They'll be looking to get back into a quarter final.
You often hear as well teams, they talk about the best teams, like the teams that won All-Ireland Championships over the last couple of years, Tyrone, Dublin, Kerry, Mayo, have been around finals and stuff, about culture within a panel. Is that something, I know some people might roll their eyes when they hear that word, but it does seem to be an important thing with the most successful teams. Is that something you see Pádraig Joyce and his team really starting to grow within this panel?
Yeah, I think culture is driven by players and management, those at the coalface, and In the first 2 years, Pádraig and COVID and like everyone else, but it didn't go to plan between shortened leagues and knockouts and whatnot. So I think this is the first year, and the addition of Cian O'Neill to bring all the experience he has from working at the highest level, again in both codes. I think that's feeding into what we're seeing today, what we saw against Mayo. They're finding a place where they seem to be happy in what they're doing. They know what they're doing. It's not everything is perfect, but there is a strong sense that the team are progressing, and I suppose that can feed back into the culture. It's there, it's improving. But I think it's a player, and it's just that team, the players, the managers, the backroom staff. They drive that, and I suppose you just, from a Galway's perspective, you're happy with what you saw today. It was a good representation for Galway football. It was a win, and that'll be really heartening for the Galway public. It's a real confidence booster for the players. But I don't think they'll dwell on it. I hope they don't, because they need to go back down and know that there's bigger games lie ahead.
Absolutely, but as well, looking ahead to that quarter-final, we don't know who they'll be playing yet. But the fact that some people question whether Galway could back up the Mayo win by coming here today and beating a bogey team of theirs, Roscommon, but they've done that. So the fact that they've shown they can do back-to-back wins like that does give you optimism as well that this team could perhaps reach the last four of the All-Ireland Championship.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like it's very much. It should be. I'm sure it's on their radar. There's no reason why they cannot plan for that. I think they have a fairly good balance of the age profile is good. There's a mix of lads there with a lot of years on the clock in a good sense. In terms of the Paul Conroy's, Damien Comers, like Shane Walsh. They've a huge amount of football played. So you're looking at those lads to keep bringing the consistency that they've shown. Together with all the newer players that are settling in quite well, so that in terms of the balance or the makeup, you'll be very happy with it. And I don't think they'll fear anyone, coming in an All-Ireland quarter-final, nor should they. It's down if they can perform, if they can get their defence solid, and if they turn up and if they play to 90-95% of their capabilities, they'll have a right good chance against anyone they could meet in the next quarter final.